Good afternoon. Oh, you can do better than that. Good afternoon. That's much better. Welcome, everybody, to the New Hampshire MLK Junior Coalition's 43rd Martin Luther King Jr. Day Celebration. My name is James McKim, and I'm the first Vice President of the Manchester NAACP, formerly President, and I will be your MC for this afternoon's exciting program. First question, though, did you all enjoy that wonderful lunch? Are you ready for a fantastic program? Are you ready for a fantastic program? Are you ready for a fantastic program? As you know, we seem to be in a time when we're divided because of who we are. In recognition of that fact, our theme for this year is Many Paths, One Dream. Intersectional perspectives on MLK's legacy. I do want to recognize that we have several officials in the room. I know that Alderman Pat Long is here. Senator now, yes, that's right. I don't know that I saw any other elected officials, but if you are an elected official, please stand up and be recognized. Any? All right, Representative Melissa? All right. And do we have any veterans in the House? Any veterans, please stand and be thanked and recognized for your service. And so with that, I'd like to introduce the chair of the MLK Coalition, Ms. Maxine Mosley, to say a few words of welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will also add, this is our 43rd annual. We have never You want me to be louder? How is that? People in the audience are saying, really? We have never canceled this event in 43 years. Even during COVID, we did a remote event. The very first one of these 43 years ago was in a blizzard. So we are here, we are together, and we welcome you. So I bring you official greetings from the MLK Junior New Hampshire Coalition. It is a day for all of us to join together to learn, listen, share thoughts, strengthen our community, and hopefully lead inspired to move to action, and yes, resistance. Many of you here today are already engaged in the work needed to make change. So your question is, are you doing enough? For some of us, the call to action today will hopefully resonate, and we will demand of ourselves to show up, stand up, and speak up, and do something. The work of Dr. King is being celebrated across our country today, but it needs to be championed each and every day going forward. I also bring you greetings from our federal delegation. None of them are able to be here today in person, as they are all in Washington, D.C. at that other event happening on the national stage. I do want to share the irony of today, and it is not lost on all of us. We are here to celebrate the life and work of Dr. King for what he stood for: the eradication of racism, equality, care, respect, collaboration, and the building of a beloved community for all of us. At the other event today, the beliefs are polar opposite. It is our responsibility and obligation to stand firm on the values that we hold dear and true. So I have two brief letters to read to you. One is from Senator Jean Shaheen. Dear friends, I join you all in spirit at the 43rd Annual MLK Junior Community Celebration. Today isn't simply about remembering a consequential life taken far too soon. It's also a chance to reflect on Dr. King's teachings and apply them to the issues of today. It's a time to consider the challenges ahead in achieving his vision of justice, equality, and the opportunity everywhere and for all. We have made great progress in building this beloved community. We are not there yet, but I share Dr. King's faith that we, as people from many paths and different backgrounds, will get there one day. As we strive towards a more perfect union, we should keep Dr. King's wise words in mind. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. We should remember that it bends because of our actions, big and small, to make the world a better, fairer place. We should draw inspiration from the resilience of past Americans who met slavery with endurance, segregation with civil disobedience, and discrimination with a firm insistence on justice and fairness. We should also look to the example of this year's honorees. Amy Antonucci, Representative Alessandra Murray, Will Arvilo, and the American Friends Service Committee, as powerful advocates across many spheres of community life. With these motivations and these thoughts in mind, we can continue to answer Dr. King's call to stand tall for equality and raise our voices together in the pursuit of positive change. I wish you all the best as you continue these efforts in New Hampshire to uplift and support all members of your communities. Sincerely, Jean Shaheen, United States Senator. And a brief letter from the Honorable Representative Chris Pappas, who has not missed many of these. Dear friends, thank you for inviting me to the celebration of the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. While I regret not being able to attend in person, I want to thank the Coalition for hosting its annual community celebration and all those who have made this event possible. Through his commitment to nonviolence and justice, Dr. King modeled for a nation and the world the power of standing up for our values while standing together against entrenched, often systemic opposition. It was through that work he showed that transformational change could be realized. Today we acknowledge the progress that has been made, but we recognize that his work and our work is far from finished. In our efforts to continue down the path of progress, we recommit ourselves to live in Dr. King's image each and every day. This is what I have tried to do in my own small way as a member of Congress, and is what each of you do in your own ways as well. The words and legacy of Dr. King reminds us that change is possible, but also that change does not happen overnight, and that the path of progress is rarely a straight line. This is why we must work together. I am eager to continue to work with each of you to carry the torch a little further towards justice. Congratulations to all the award winners. I look forward to seeing what you all accomplish in the future, and if my office may ever be of assistance, please do not hesitate to reach out. Sincerely, the Honorable Chris Pappas.
Actually, why don't we have one more proclamation from the governor. Why don't we? I'm going a little out of turn, but we're doing proclamation, so I thought, it's time. Why don't we just have the governor's proclamation read at the same time? So, Reverend Jason Wells with the governor's proclamation.
Thank you, James. The State of New Hampshire, by Her Excellency Kelly A. Ayotte, Governor. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. dedicated his life to the pursuit of justice, equality, and peace through nonviolent activism, and whereas Dr. King's leadership in the civil rights movement led to landmark legislation, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, advancing the cause of freedom and equality for all Americans. And whereas New Hampshire, proudly known as the Live Free or Die state, stands as a symbol for liberty and personal freedom, values for which Dr. King courageously fought to ensure that all Americans could live free of discrimination. And whereas Dr. King's unwavering commitment to justice continues to inspire citizens to work towards a more just and compassionate society. And whereas Martin Luther King Jr. Day serves as a time for reflection, education, and community service, encouraging all people to honor Dr. King's legacy by promoting equality and justice for every individual. And whereas communities across New Hampshire will come together to honor Dr. King's life and legacy through events, educational programs, and acts of service that celebrate his vision of freedom and equality for all. Now, therefore, I, Kelly Ayotte, Governor of the State of New Hampshire, do hereby proclaim January 20, 2025 as Martin Luther King Civil Rights Day in the state of New Hampshire, and encourage all citizens to observe this day with acts of service, reflection, and commitment to justice, unity, and equality for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Wells. And just as a quick note, I just heard from Mayor Jay Rouet. He is sorry he could not be here today, but he sends his regards. And now we'd like to invite Reverend Sarah Meehan up for an invocation.
Let us be in a spirit of prayer. Holy One, today we are going to lift our voices and sing till earth and mountain ring. Today we are going to experience joy like a fountain and peace like a river. Today we are going to bring good news to the oppressed and proclaim this the year of God's favor. You have brought us together in this time and this place, and we sing, we shout, we lift our hearts in gratitude for this gathered body and the ways the Spirit is present, moving, shaking, propelling us on toward new and wondrous things. For this is the Spirit the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. felt, shared, and bestowed upon the world during his lifetime, and it is this same Spirit that has been carried on in his name and memory to this day. And like Reverend King, we sing, we pray, and we speak not from a place of naivete or innocence, nor a place of denial or obliviousness. For we know the mountains that we must climb. We know the battles ahead. We know all too well what faces us. But just as those who have experienced the harsh past before us, we too will insist on joy as our right. We will count on hope as our resistance. We will lean into love as our resilience in the face of all that would try to wear us down, that would try to defeat us, that would try to tell us that we cannot, we will not, and we should not. We will hear your voice, God, in those around us today, and together we will persist. So, Holy One, be with us in these moments. Help us to hold on to the grace and power that your disciple, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., displayed through his ministry and leadership. Help us to name and to lift up the countless others who have paved the way for us and are even now fighting the good fight for justice, for compassion, for freedom, for your way of love in the face of so much hate. Help us to know, Spirit of love, that you hold us in your hands, giving our voices volume and power and the ability to change minds, to open hearts, to be your presence for all in need. Bring us together, united in one vision, that this world might become the kingdom you want for all of us. We pray with joy and hope in our hearts. Amen.
And now, Mr. David Holt for a land acknowledgement.
Thank you, everybody. I am with Welcoming New Hampshire. I'm just going to take a moment of privilege because I'm so happy to be here with all my peeps. I'm going to take a selfie, so everybody smile, okay? All right, now for a moment more, a little bit more serious. Huh? Keep it up. That working? All right, sorry. As we all journey on the trail of life, we wish to acknowledge the spiritual and physical connection that Indigenous people have maintained to Natakina, our homeland, and the Aki, which is the land, Nebi, water, Olakwika, flora, and Awasak, fauna, which each of our communities is honored to steward today. We also acknowledge the hardships they continue to endure after the loss of unceded homelands and champion everyone's responsibility to foster relationships and opportunities that strengthen the well-being of the Indigenous people who carry forward the traditions of their ancestors. Please join me now in a moment of silence for those civil rights warriors upon whose shoulders we now stand. Thank you.
And now, I would like to invite Rebecca Hodgkins from City Year and Eva May Yaquez, a fourth grader at Northwest Elementary, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for that. So you've been sitting for a few minutes, right? Time to stand up because we are now going to sing the African American National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing. Please stand. Yep. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the day that ride, yet with a steady beat, about our weary feet, come to the place on which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that the tears has been watered. We have come treading the path of the sprout of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, where are the rich at last, where the white gleams of our star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us unto the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath the hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. And now for our first award, Miss Maxine Mosley.
Celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, the New Hampshire American Friends and Service Committee is very deserving of our special recognition today. The parent organization was born in 1917. In 1975, the New Hampshire chapter was opened. This organization's work is centered on education and coordination within local movements for equity, peace, justice, dignity, and democracy, and a commitment to nonviolence and non-hierarchical decision-making. The power of love and nonviolence are the core beliefs of this organization. This group continues to inform us all by publishing a weekly State House Watch. Thank you very much for that. It's a newsletter printed during each legislative session, and they host monthly immigrant rights networking meetings. This organization is certainly worthy of our recognition for their body of work and advocacy for the past 50 years in the state of New Hampshire. Accepting the award on behalf of the American Friends Service Committee is their Northeast Regional Director, Keith Harvey.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I come from a Baptist tradition, y'all. Good afternoon. I love it. I love it. 50 years. 50 years, y'all. On behalf of the American Friends Service New Hampshire program, We are truly humbled and honored to accept the MLK Coalition Community Service Award in the spirit of Dr. King Jr. His legacy of courage, compassion, and unwavering commitment to justice continues to inspire us all. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible people who have inspired and supported the community work along the way. To the staff, both present and past, to the committee, and to all the volunteers, allies, and friends whose dedication and commitment are what drove and drive our initiatives forward together. We have faced challenges, celebrated successes, and forged lasting friendships. Dr. King once said, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" The question resonates deeply with me and serves as a guiding principle. It reminds us that the true fulfillment comes from serving our community and standing up for what is right and to be a good servant leader. As I reflect back on the New Hampshire program's journey, I realize that the work they do is not just about individual achievements, but it's about collective efforts of the many to be part of a community that embodied the values of Dr. King for equality, justice, and love. Together, we have made strides, but there is much more work to be done. And today, in this time, I cannot help but reflect on Dr. King's address at the Conference on Politics in 1967, and he talked about the three evils of society: racism, poverty, not just poverty, but he said extreme materialism, and materialism, and militarism. And also, Dr. Barber has added a fourth one, and that's the degradation of our environment. A couple of decades ago, while we were actually advocating for MLK holiday, Arnie Albert mentioned something to me in passing. He said, it's all about education to action. We learn together as a community, and then we prepare to take action. So let us honor Dr. King by continuing to advocate for those voices that are often unheard. Let us strive to build bridges, foster understanding, and create a world where everyone feels valued and respected. Each of us as individuals has the power to make a difference, no matter how small. But together, we can be visionaries and we can be bold in our efforts for positive, peaceful change. So in closing, I accept this award, not just for the AFSC New Hampshire program, but for all those who work tirelessly for justice, equality. Thank you for this recognition. Thank you.
All right, so our next award, the 2025 MLK Jr. Lifetime Achievement Recognition. This award goes to someone who's been a major force in fighting civil rights in our state for many years. And I've had the pleasure of being alongside him as he's fought many of those battles. We fought them together. He has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to social justice and equality in New Hampshire, embodying the spirit and principles of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. His efforts to create a more inclusive and equitable New Hampshire truly reflect Dr. King's dream of liberty and justice for all. His life's work of dedication and leadership honors Dr. King and the ongoing pursuit of social justice in our community here in New Hampshire. His work has included such areas as housing affordability, higher education opportunities, and access for minority and low-income students, workforce training programs, mostly on the seacoast, but and across the state, promoting diversity and inclusion in the business community, health service, and food security. We are, as a state, so lucky and grateful for his body of work, his leadership, and his dedication. And so I'm so honored to present this special recognition to Will Arvello for a lifetime of advocacy. Will?
Well, this is as good as it gets for me. This is my Oscar. Good evening, or good afternoon. And I want to say, first of all, I want to say that my wife is not able to be with me, but I miss her. She's been sick for a while, and I'm thinking of her. I'm sure she'd want to be here with us, celebrating this moment, particularly for me, but also celebrating this day that we all celebrate together. I also want to thank the friends that are here with me to celebrate this moment. I want to thank my boss, Chuck Silva, who's out there somewhere. Chuck, thank you for being here. That speaks very highly of you and our relationship, so thank you very much. Well, greetings. I hope that you are all doing well on this day of remembrance and celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King. I want to thank, let me take my mask off. That way you can see what I look like. I want to thank the New Hampshire Martin Luther King Coalition and its nominating committee for bestowing this honor on me. I also want to congratulate and thank all of the honorees, past and present, for their devotion to making our world better for all. When my good friend James McKim called me to tell me that I was being honored in this way, I was in a bit of disbelief. After the initial shock, I was elated, of course. It was an unexpected call and honor. And I must say that it is a little bit unexpected because, hey, I got another 30 years ahead of me. So this is a little bit of a premature award, but because I have a lot more to give. And but thank you, James, and the nominating committee for selecting me for this honor. I'm sure that there are many others in the state of New Hampshire who are just as deserving. Of all of the awards that I have received, this one is the most special, and I think will always be. You see, when I was a little 10-year-old boy in East Harlem, I fell in love with learning and I fell in love with books. And I remember going to the Aguilar branch of the New York City Public Library in East Harlem. At that point in my life, I was very interested in people, interested in biographies. And I remember going and checking out books on Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, George Washington Carver, John and Robert Kennedy, and so many others, and learning about their lives. And I see a lot of young people in the audience, and to them I say that it was the foundation for me. That is what got me going on this path, lifelong journey and path of social justice and seeking to improve lives for others and for communities, whether it was in New York or whether it was here in New Hampshire. And it has been a joyful journey for me, certainly. These men and women established the path that I was to follow and still am following. The most prominent among them being Dr. King. And I'm honored to receive this award in his name. As in the past, we live in uncertain times. If Dr. King were here today, I wonder how he would think about the fact that 56 years after his death, we are still struggling with issues of human rights, racism, equality, poverty, environmental degradation, and the lack of access to universal health care. Being the wise man that he was, he would probably not be surprised and say that change is hard and slow. Thus, let us continue to be on the lookout and speak to injustices and support our brothers and sisters in their hour of need. Let us continue our work for a better America and a better world. I am one who believes that we must and can do both, because America does not exist unto itself, but is part of a sisterhood of nations with diverse humans, cultures, and natural environment that sustains us. New Hampshire is changing for the better, I think, but unfortunately, we still need to travel a long distance locked in each other's protective arms. Let us not rest until all peoples are treated with fairness and dignity. Thank you.
Mr. Will Arvello. For the last few years, we have had the great fortune to have the Queen City Youth Choir of the Manchester Music School perform for us. This year, they are joined on the stage by the voices of a concert choir. We are so pleased to have them back with us today under the direction of Susan Wilkes and accompanied by Adam Boroskins. Here's the choir performing "The Storm is Passing Over" by Charles Albert Tindley. If your feet were not tapping during that, I don't know. So I'd like to invite Sebastian Fuentes up to bestow our Vanessa Washington Johnson Award on our new awardee.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. All right, many people speak Spanish today. That's great. We gathered today to honor an individual whose dedication to justice, compassion, and determination have made a profound impact in our communities. It is my immense privilege to present the Vanessa Washington Johnson Blumen Award, an award that represents the highest ideals of leadership, resilience, and service to the amazing Representative Alessandra Murray from Manchester. The Vanessa Washington Johnson Blumen Award carries the legacy of a trailblazer who fought tirelessly for equity and progress. Vanessa Johnson believed in the power of people to create change and in the courage it takes to stand up to injustice. Today, we recognize the same spirit in Representative Alessandra Murray. Alessandra, your journey has been nothing short of extraordinary. You have carried the hopes and dreams of those who felt unseen, unheard, and underserved. In the chambers of power, you have been a voice for the voiceless, a champion for the marginalized, and a true advocate for the values that unite us all. And I love the fact that you also hold me accountable when sometimes I forget my North Star. But what sets you apart, Alessandra, is not just your achievements, impressive as they are, is the way you lead with heart, humility, and this unshakable belief of the power of community. Alessandra, on behalf of all of us, congratulations. Thank you for everything you have done, for everything you continue to do, and for everything that you will do for all of us. This award is just a small token of the immense gratitude that not just myself, but the community have for you. Please, everyone, join me with a heartfelt round of applause for the recipient of the Vanessa Washington Johnson Blumen Award, Representative and my friend, Alessandra Murray.
Thank you so much. Trying to be careful. Thank you so much, everyone here today, and good afternoon. Sorry, just pulling up my notes because I'm bad at speaking on the fly. Okay, I'm gonna hold it up. It's great to see so many faces familiar and new here today. Friends, mentors, community leaders. I'm so honored to be accepting the Vanessa Washington Johnson Blumen Award today. To have my name associated with someone as inspiring and impactful as Vanessa was and is deeply humbling. She dedicated her life to advocating for those whose voices often go unheard, especially for our students right here in Manchester. To be recognized in her name is both a privilege and a responsibility that I carry with great pride and gratitude. As we gather here today on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, while others gather for a different celebration in Washington, it is fitting that we reflect on Dr. King's vision, a world where justice and equality are not just ideals, but the actual foundation of our society. His words, his work, and his unwavering belief in the power of love and unity continue to inspire us all to push beyond the boundaries of what is and into the possibilities of what could be. In accepting this award on this inauguration day, I feel more than ever the weight of that challenge. As a state representative in Concord, I am reminded of the importance of fighting for justice every day. Every day I see the threats facing our communities and how much Granite Staters struggle under the weight of injustice. And when days are hard or battles are lost, our community is what keeps me going. But whether I'm advocating for prison reform on the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee, fighting to protect the rights of our immigrant families, working to make housing affordable for all in New Hampshire, or demanding accountability for those who attack LGBTQ rights, none of this would be possible without the people around me. So this recognition is not just for me, it belongs to every single person who has worked tirelessly alongside me to make New Hampshire more just, compassionate, and equitable. To Sebastian Fuentes,
who has been an inspiration and a dear friend of mine since I first stepped foot into New Hampshire politics, to the advocates of the ACLU and the American Friends Service Committee, who tirelessly fight the good fight, to all the LGBTQ youth in New Hampshire who keep showing up with hope and sincerity despite everything that the world has thrown at them. Every conversation, every protest for change, and every moment of solidarity is what brings us closer to fulfilling Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. We all know the work is far from over. Social justice is a journey, not a destination. It requires commitment, resilience, and an unwavering belief in the dignity and worth of every individual. This award is a reminder of that ongoing work, and I promise to continue to fight for a future where all people, regardless of race, gender, class, or background, can all safely and happily call New Hampshire home. Thank you to the committee for this incredible honor, and to my family and friends for their unwavering support, especially to my wonderful husband, Seamus, who could not be here today. And thank you to all of you here today for continuing to stand with me in this journey towards justice. Together we can create a future where the values of justice and equality make it possible for us all to thrive. Thank you.
What a fabulous representative she is, too. Next, I'd like to invite Ms. Maggie Fogarty up to present the MLK Jr. Award.
Thank you, Ophelia. Thank you, Ophelia Burnett. Good afternoon. On behalf of the MLK Coalition, as well as the American Friends Service Committee, I am honored to present this year's Martin Luther King Jr. Award to Amy Antonucci. Amy is the board chairperson for New Hampshire Peace Action. She is also a farmer, a musician, a storyteller. She has a gentle and beautiful way of being in the world, and she blesses many of us with her compassion and care and love. She is this year's recipient because of her leadership in the peace movement in New Hampshire over many years, including her dedicated organizing to build sustained activism for peace in Palestine and Israel, but also throughout the world, wherever militarism robs us of the resources that we need, robs us of life, dehumanizes us. That work is constant and global and local. And Amy knows that peace work challenges the dominant paradigms of our society, our very notions of what it is to be safe, secure, what is power. Peace work, as it was for Dr. Martin Luther King, can make you unpopular in the mainstream. It is work that requires courage and truth-telling. Her leadership embodies the core steps that Dr. King employed in his campaigns of active nonviolence for justice and dignity, including gathering information, deepening understanding of complex issues, building communities of concern around those issues, continuously educating ourselves and each other to deeper awareness, deeper knowledge, appealing to those who have power to make decisions, to act for peace, continuously acting in respectful ways, trying to seek agreement and to invite their change or their action for peace, engaging in nonviolent direct action, including civil disobedience, when the powers that be are responding to none of the preliminary steps. And then ultimately to reconcile with each other, to reweave community, to continue to hold a vision of beloved community where all of us, regardless of our perspectives and our life experiences and the journeys that we've traveled, can experience a oneness and a peace together. Because of Amy's humility, she bristles a little bit at the notion that she would be elevated for the work of peace activists throughout the state and throughout the world, but she understands that these awards are ways of telling the story of essential work that is ongoing and to inviting more people into that work. She's motivated by her faith that justice will prevail and that we get there by living out of love and courage and truth-telling and compassion, all qualities that are much needed for the difficult days ahead. So on this sacred day of Martin Luther King Day, it is a joy to honor Amy Antonucci with the MLK Award.
Is this good? Can you focus here? No? Yes? Okay. I am deeply honored to be receiving this award. Thanks so much to the committee and to everyone here. I'm especially touched because it has been my experience that speaking up for peace often leads more to ostracism than inclusion, let alone recognition. Dr. King himself faced tremendous criticism when he expanded his vision beyond domestic issues to include foreign policy. And he is not alone. Being a peacemaker has come with great risk for thousands of years. One of the reasons that I admire and study the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is the ability he had to connect issues, including militarism. He spoke of the triple evils of racism, economic exploitation, and militarism, and warned us that a nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. We still continue to spend too many of our resources on war making at the expense of the initiatives that many in this room work so hard for. Dr. King spoke not just against war, but against a war that his own country was waging. This is both the most responsible thing to do and the least popular. It was his observation that the U.S. is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. He also helped us understand that violence leads to more violence. He said the ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral, begetting the very thing it seeks to destroy. We are watching that, tragically now, in multiple places around the world, including places where the U.S. is deeply implicated, such as Israel and Palestine, Ukraine and Russia. In a world with nuclear weapons and climate disruption, these cycles of violence are beyond dangerous. If we continue to try to solve world problems through war, we will not be able to survive as a species. We will either learn to live together as siblings or perish together as fools. Dr. King also showed us other options. He demonstrated how to actively stand against injustice without trying to destroy our opponent. He sought to honor everyone's dignity and always worked to build a beloved community. Whether I am facing a furious counter-protester at a rally, a distressed staff person when risking arrest at a civil disobedience action, a police officer or judge afterwards, or a fellow activist that I disagree with in a meeting, my goal is always to treat them with dignity. I try to never forget
that they may feel like my adversary in the moment, but that we are of the same species, in the same community, with more in common than we might momentarily realize. Of course, Dr. King did not just speak to these issues, but used a whole host of nonviolent tactics, such as civil disobedience, boycotts, freedom rides, to act. He said, change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle. New research, such as from Erica Chenoweth at Harvard, shows how correct Dr. King was. Whether it's a campaign for social change or one to oust a military regime, nonviolence is proving to be the most effective way to make change. It's twice as likely to succeed, with 10 times fewer casualties, and achieve results faster than violent campaigns. When we, the US, arm countries, even if ostensibly for noble reasons, we actually decrease the chances of the people there achieving freedom, security, and democracy. If we can truly, instead, embrace Dr. King's legacy and learn how to use these techniques ourselves, we hold the power to create a more just and peaceful world. The fact that this year's presidential inauguration falls on Martin Luther King Jr. Day first struck me as disturbing. On the other hand, it is an appropriate day to remember and vow to continue his work of committed nonviolent action to stop injustice and create the beloved community for all. While I am personally honored to accept this award, I am really accepting it on behalf of many. New Hampshire Peace Action, the New Hampshire Coalition for a Just Peace in the Middle East, and many other groups and individuals. This is not about the power of one. It is truly about the power we have when we come together. I have often been up front the past year and a half, but that would have meant nothing without the hundreds of other people who have shown up in small and big ways to be part of the movement for global peace and justice. Yesterday, we actually saw a significant step in the form of a temporary ceasefire and hostage swap in Israel and Gaza. But we know that we have a long way to go. I hope that we can all take in moments, though, like this, moments of progress, moments of appreciation to carry us forward in this work. And I thank all of you for being on the journey with us. Thank you.
Amy Antonucci, everyone. So now we're going to slip a little something into the program. We have the MLK Coalition Choir who will be singing Sam Cooke's A Change Is Gonna Come. All right. With that, is Nicole here? Yes. Okay. So what we're going to do now is, after that very uplifting song, we're going to come down a little bit and shift gears, and we have a little discussion for you. And I'm so pleased that we have Sebastian Fentus back as our moderator for a panel discussion on race and intersection of race.
Already. How can we follow that physical presentation? That was amazing. And I gotta say that just was so singing up on the stages gave me hope, gave me emotion. But I think here we are. The wonderful legacy of Dr. King. So just before we go to the breakout sessions, I would love to introduce these three amazing panels we have today. First of all, Doctora Deborah Opramola. Doctora Opramola joined the Disability Rights Center of New Hampshire as an outreach coordinator. She specializes in visiting and educating our communities in the spring of 2022. Dr. Opramola is a former oncologist and holds a Master of Law from Washington University School of Law. And for the past 25 years, Deborah has served as an educational surrogate parent, assisting children in foster care who have individual education programs, also known as IEPs. In 2017, Dr. Opramola was appointed to the New Hampshire Council of Developmental Disabilities as a parent advocate. Thank you for being here, Doctor. My friend Grace Indeke. Grace began her role with the AFSC of New Hampshire as a programs director for the state in 2020. She's an artist, an activist, a hell of a dancer, community organizer, and a student of Africana Studies and Sociology at the University of Massachusetts in Boston. She was born in the beautiful and powerful Democratic Republic of Congo, was raised in New Hampshire, left the state, came back, thank you, and lives here happily with her husband. And you were also the last year's recipient of the MLK of New Hampshire Award. And lastly but not least, my friend Lisa Baldwin. Lisa is the former executive director for ABLE New Hampshire, where she successfully led a number of legislative and regulatory wins, advancing equity for people with disabilities, including leading the disability advocacy community role in securing an adult dental medical benefit. That's super important. It's funding as well. She was a 2021 recipient of the President's Annual Outstanding Woman of New Hampshire Award, and is the founder of Boydman and Associates, Strategies for Disability Equity. Lisa is also writing a book on ableism and is currently very excited to be the executive director of the New Hampshire Council of Churches. Thank you very much for the three of you to be here. So the topic of the discussion is going to be intersectionality and race. All three of you are experts on the specific topics of healthcare, race and immigration, and the disability justice. Well, I want to talk really quick about what is the word intersectionality. It's trending. A lot of people are talking about it, but not many knows exactly what the concept is. So intersectionality is the framework for understanding how various social identities, such as race, gender, class, sexuality, disability, and others interact, creating unique experiences of oppression or privilege. This concept is used to highlight how individuals with multiple marginalized identities experience discrimination differently than those who might only face one type of oppression. You're well aware of the world that we live in right now. Maybe we'll start with you, Doctora. In the world of healthcare and race, what issues do you see right now that you're well aware of that you would like to inform the audience here?
Well, first I want to say, in the quote, of all the forms of inequality, injustice in health is the most shocking and the most inhumane because it often results in physical death. BIPOC and marginalized communities face what we call now health racism. It's not a disparity anymore. It's systemic because you see it throughout all sections. Whether when you look into the healthcare world, you don't see many BIPOC healthcare providers. And I'm talking sort of a little bit about doctors. Often when people say to me, "Are you a nurse?" and I say, "I'm the other thing." Okay? In my mind, I'm jumping to doctor. In their mind, they're jumping to nutritionist? And trust me, my husband would hope and say, we would have paid much less money if you were a nutritionist. But those disparities that you see are from redlining. They're from the lack of education provided. It's all the systems that were created from slavery that we still use today that show those disparities. And as we close the gap in those disparities, they're getting ready to open up again. But what I have to say about healthcare and the intersectionality of it is, when we talk about transportation, those in marginalized communities sometimes can't get to the doctor because they have no transportation. Or they can't go to the doctor because what little health insurance they have, there's none in their policy, their HMO that they can get to. And when they get there, they have to face the biases that the physicians and the nurses have about you. So those aren't new. They're just a continuation.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's super important. And I actually also read an article a few weeks ago about how in Black and brown communities, the number one source of healthy food are stores like Dollar General or the Dollar Tree store, because they don't have a healthy choice in that community. The same with hospitals. So maybe Grace, I follow you for a long time, and I know the work that you have done, the trips that you have, the many trips that you have traveled to the southern part of the country, especially to the southern border of Texas. Immigration, race. What was the most impactful moment of your trip, and how can you connect it to the topic that we're talking about right now?
So I have had the privilege of being able to travel to the southern border in Texas, in El Paso, and in Juarez, and then to visit colleagues in San Diego and Tijuana. And I think what struck me, there are many moments that struck me. If folks go on the Hope Border Institute website, I did have the privilege to write an article as a contribution to that trip, that cohort that came together, and add my analysis and my experiences. But I think what always stands out to me is seeing. I love children. I've always loved children. And I think many of us, all of us were kids once. Many of us are lucky to have children in our lives. And it was to see young children, very young children, I'm talking barely walking and still in diapers, being stuck right in between the border walls. Many people don't know that the border fence, it's actually a fence, it's a gigantic steel fence. In many parts of our southern border region, they double it up. So there is this sort of no man's land, still technically on U.S. land, but there is this space in between these two border fences where people are left stranded there, where Border Patrol refuses to allow them to cross, and they can't go back, and so they're stuck there. And whether that was a fence in where all you could see for miles was shrub bush, to watch people on our side, on the U.S. side, colleagues and their partners and their allies working so hard to ensure that they could provide basic necessities, water, food, electricity to charge people's phones, feminine products, diapers, milk bottles, for not just adults but for children. And to see the tiniest of children that you can imagine in those spaces, either between the fences or down by a dried up river when I was in Texas, and seeing people stuck, not able to cross and not able to go back, and just living on what is left of the river, doing their best to survive with their littlest ones. And so I think to connect all these experiences to a little bit of what Dr. Deborah was speaking about is the fact that this is not new, right? We've been here before. The foundation of our immigration system has been rooted in racism from its beginnings. You know, one of the first immigration laws only allowed white people, European descendant people, to adjust for citizenship after a certain residency period. And then we see subsequent policies throughout the decades, from then, we're talking 1700s, you know, through now, where each of those policies have made a point to exclude an entire group of people based on their nationality, their race, or their ethnic group identities. We saw that with the Chinese Exclusion Act. We've seen it under Trump 1.0 with the Muslim bans, the African bans, banning people from certain countries from being able to come in. We even saw it, I think, a great example of this juxtaposition, the differences between how white immigrants are treated and how black and brown immigrants are treated, is even in what we saw when Title 42 was in place during the COVID pandemic. And the border walls were shut. The border was shut down, people were not allowed to come through, but people were still experiencing great conflict and violence in their homelands. We're still seeking a safe passage here. And so we saw with our Ukrainian siblings, you know, an allowance for their entrance, them being given what is massively available under those temporary protections. But then we saw community members from places like Cameroon and Haiti, Guatemala, South America, you know, different countries in South America, not receiving the same relief, the same span of relief as we saw were given. And so we have seen these disparities in our immigration systems for many, many years, and we see it play out on the ground by who gets stuck in those in-between spaces, who falls through the traps of our immigration system, who is allowed to receive relief. And all who seek relief should be able to receive it. We're not here to argue. I'm not here to argue who is worthy of more than the other. This is not the oppression Olympics. So what we see, though, is a built-in unfairness. And that unfairness often results in people's loss of life as well as their livelihood.
Thank you so much, Grace. These are many times in having diversity, equity, and inclusion talks, in the community, we dismiss and forget the word disability. Structural oppression is not just about race and gender, but how can we drive attention to disability issues and give it the right place it needs in our conversations?
Thanks, I really appreciate that question, because it's been tough trying to bring up the scourge that is ableism in other justice circles. We just don't know what we don't know, so it can be difficult trying to educate people who you think are on your own values team. So it is not the oppression Olympics, but I am going to take a moment to to describe for those who may not know what ableism is. And it's the invisible system of oppression, because most people don't even know the word ableism. And like its sibling oppressions of sexism, racism, it is the structural, person-mediated, and internalized system of oppression that exists based on a person's ability or disability or other people's perceptions of disability. So, how many of you actually know that outcomes for people with disabilities are the worst of any identified class in America, across almost all metrics? How many know that? Yes, of course you do that. So that's the invisibility of ableism. But when we're looking at the intersection of racism and ableism, we get not just a double, but a triple dose of marginalization. For African Americans with disabilities, they are 22% less likely to be employed, 51% more likely to experience poverty, and people with disabilities experience the highest rates of poverty. So if you are a person of color, it is extreme poverty if you happen to have a disability as well. One more statistic, 84% more likely to lack adequate housing. So the good news is we are having this conversation, and here in New Hampshire, we can build a really powerful coalition that will lift the boat for both of these, and we should all of these. But if we can more consciously align our efforts, in particular around the ableism and racism that's in our public schools here in New Hampshire, we would be doing ourselves a great service and servicing the next generation. So we've got to prioritize universal design in buildings, in your minds, in the structures of your organizations. We need to integrate disability representation in leadership, in media, and in decision-making roles. We need to actively ourselves challenge our stereotypes and implicit biases that we have about life with a disability. When was the last time you invited a person with an intellectual disability to be a part of your board, to be a part of your political town committee, or to join a rec sports team? Do you have anybody in your life with an intellectual disability? Do you use a sing-song voice when you're talking to an adult person with a disability? So we need to look at the structures and frameworks of our organizations, and we need to invite in people with lived experience, and we need to make sure that there is an explicit feeling of belonging that we are looking to create, and we need to move away from the afterthought of including people with disabilities into our boards.
Thank you, Lisa, so much for that. Dr. Alpromol, I have a question for you. Latinos, the immigrant community, not just Latinos, but the immigrant community are really fearful about the next 4 years. The African American community and the Latino community, all communities of color, have been really fearful about living in this country for the last 12 years, maybe more than that. Their mental health is always at risk. What are your observations about the current state of mental health in the BIPOC community all across the country?
We're seeing a rise in mental health issues across the country. And it really is, to get to the bottom line of it, is a workforce issue. We do not have enough providers, whether they are doctors or mental health clinicians, they are not enough in the field.
a lot of that is that insurance companies don't want to pay. I personally know that I had a test done, and I got a bill from the hospital. The negotiated price for the test was $155. The actual cost of the test was $750. The hospitals used to not bill you, but they have to survive. We have so many hospitals closing because they're not funded well. So people aren't going into fields that we need. We have to take actions to increase the value. But also, we have to have clinicians that look like the community. You know, why would I pour my soul out to you and you have no idea what I'm talking about? So we have to encourage various cultures to join the profession. We need to support them to come out in the profession. And the third thing that we have to do is tell people that it's okay. A mental health problem is not anything to be ashamed of. And I have to do it in a way that's culturally appropriate. I can't enter the Latino community and say, do it. I can't even speak your language. I teach you. All right. So there's a lot of that in the mix that we need to do, but it's take those baby steps, okay? Partner up. Now, if I need an interpreter, I go, hey, Sebastian, are you free? Are you free? Oh, don't tell me you're not doing anything because I have something for you to do. Yeah. It is reaching out and building a bridge so that you can enter. And not for a hot second, but say, I will be here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Grace. I have $1 million question for you right now. Let's bring it here to New Hampshire. Immigration, race, we're talking about healthcare disabilities. What do you think that we can do locally to improve that world? I told you it's $1 million question. So what do you think is we should do as a community in the next, not 5, but maybe 10 years to improve the world, the state that we live in right now?
I love this question. So there's so much that we can do. I mean, first of all, please, for all of you, go to afsc.org/nh and sign up for our State House Watch newsletter. We not only take the time to report on what we see happening at the state level, at the local level, but we try to act as a bridge and an amplifier for our many other partners who are doing such amazing work in the community already. We have, if you haven't already, I know some of y'all had to, have been here a while, but if folks have just come in, we have amazing partner tables outside in the hallway. There are so many organizations that are working together to make life better and more welcoming and more inclusive and more equitable here in New Hampshire. So there are many ways to plug in, and one of the ways that we build community, there's so much great resources out there right now, people understanding the moment that we're in, those who have done the work, who have had the analysis, who have understood what we should come to expect, not only from white supremacy, but from the capitalist structures we are beholden to. Everything is cyclical. So in many ways, we've been here before. So because of that, we have a roadmap to what community building looks like. So just in very general, I'll talk very generally and then I'll talk very specifically. Get to know your neighbors. My sister and I have a plan over the next year to talk to every single person that lives on our street, to get to know them, to build some sort of shared library of of tools and resources, because we show up for each other when there's a kitty missing or a tree has fallen, but we still don't know each other's names. So that's a place, right? That's a simple place. Just get to know your neighbors. Plug into the work, the communities, the organizations, whatever issue area you care about, whether it's reproductive justice, whether it's immigration, whether it's disability, whether it's healthcare. I bet you $1 that there's at least one organization and one group. And if there isn't, start one. Start one. Facebook, Instagram, doesn't matter. Use the tools that you got. Just bring people together and have a conversation. Do your research. So many people, I think, are overwhelmed by the moment because it feels new. This is not new, y'all. And in many ways, I feel very naive. I'm very young still, and I'm still learning, and I'm still overwhelmed by what what I still have to understand about the world. But the knowledge is there, so take the time to get to know what's going on. And then very specifically when it comes to immigration, I mean, one very simple thing you could do tomorrow is you could join the Immigrant Rights Network for our morning meeting. We meet once a month to share updates, to share policy, to community build with one another. If you are a Black and African immigrant, please talk to me. I organize Black and African immigrants in New Hampshire so that we can share about the issues that matter most to us, that we can build community, we can understand what is going on and how our voices do have an impact, because our voices do matter. You can join us again tomorrow if if you got plans in the morning but you're free in the afternoon. Join us at the ICE headquarters at the Norris Cotton Building, Federal Building on Chestnut Street in Manchester for our vigil, our ICE vigil. There will be others throughout the month, so if you can't join us for tomorrow for whatever reason, there will be others that you can plug in. But again, sign up for our newsletter so you can hear about these updates. There are also, if you deeply care about immigration issues, there are a number, again, of networks, whether they're policy focused, whether they're focused on supporting immigrants directly, accompanying people, hearing what they need and supplying either a host home, money to support their legal fees, their daily needs, whatever the case may be. There are amazing, amazing solidarity networks throughout the state, grassroots solidarity networks that are doing this work already. There are so many ways to plug in. If you have a day a week that you can spare and you want to visit immigrants in detention, we have a detention visitation program, because it might be surprising to know that we do have a detention center here in New Hampshire. It's at the Stratford County Jail, and we've seen increases in the number of people being detained who are transferred from out of state, and they come here, and they're brought here. So if you would like to be a volunteer, if you would like to plug in, if you would like to learn more, please connect with us. But also there's so much already online, so many amazing organizations already doing work. Start with somebody that you know. If you want to vet these organizations, go through their friends list. But there is so many ways, and there's no reason, there are so many options, and no reason for any of us not to find some way of connecting and building a community together. So I don't want to overwhelm you, but thank you very much, Lisa. I wanted to remind me that we have a ton of anti-immigration bills that are coming up this week, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and Thursday. I won't go through them all. Please join our workshop right after this to learn a little bit more, and you'll certainly hear about it in our newsletter. But we know that we're not just fighting this battle, we're not just pushing for a better and beloved world and community for immigrants in the United States. We're pushing for it right here in New Hampshire, because we have a very anti-immigrant government, a very anti-immigrant majority legislature right now, and a very anti-immigrant governor. And so there is a lot for us to do, but we can do it because we're doing it together. No one is alone in this.
All right, just let me know when you run for office, Grace. I would love to vote for you. I gotta say that one strategy that I utilize at home with my family and friends is if I see somebody in my neighborhood that don't look like me or speaks a different language than me, I will approach them. I will try to connect them, and I will try to learn from them. Because I'll be surprised how many good things happen from that interaction alone. Lisa, last question before we head out to the breakouts. for you. Maybe the same question, kind of with Grace. Disability justice. What do you think at the state level we should be doing? I'm talking about state house level. What do you think the priority should be for the upcoming legislature? We have 5 minutes.
You wanna let me go on what I think we need to be working on? I'm totally off script now. First of all, we need to powerfully take back public education and insist that not only public education, but they should not dare to take a dime away from special education funding. And I want to remind everyone that we are a birth, an accident, or a decade away from being in this community, so one way or another, you are going to be a part of the disability community, so let's make sure we stage all our students for success by making sure that we protect special education funding. That's one of the top ones. Accessible voting is always up for review. Make sure you sign in and support access to accessible voting. We have, I'm caught off guard here because I have one bill that's in particular my favorite bill. We need to oppose HB 254. It's going to be heard on January 29th. It is the physician-assisted suicide. We need to oppose this legislation because it is a leapfrogging over actual, true healthcare policy and health equity. We cannot have women with disabilities not obtaining access to preventative care like pap smears. We cannot allow that to exist. We cannot allow women of color with PhDs dying at 5 times the rate of women with PhDs when they're giving birth. We cannot allow that type of health outcome disparity to exist and then provide yet another option for people who have had excellent access to care, and when they're done with all of their specialty care, have yet another option when women with disabilities can't even get up onto exam tables. So we need to be focusing our health policy in the right direction and make sure that all vulnerable citizens are not continuously squeezed out of access to care. We need to focus our health policy on what matters, and I will pause there.
I will just quickly add that as we look at policy, as we look at how our public dollars are being used, let's always view with the critical eye how there's always enough money for enforcement. There's always enough money to increase policing in our communities, to create pathways for local police to collude with federal immigration police. There's always money for that, but there's never enough money for the places where we actually need, where communities are actually looking for, and we should always stand together to call that out and push that back.
We often talk about beloved community, but we don't know how to get there. And when I talk about beloved community, and I'm a person of deep faith, I talk about the diversity, the equity, and the loving that I have to share. But as a mother and as a person who experiences a disability, we need to open up our hearts and learn how to accept one another where we are and as we are. That means, people like me, I work at the Disability Rights Center now, I can help you and educate you on how to be welcoming. How do we help everybody thrive? And for me, when you leave here today, when you say the word community, we're beginning to say the hope that we have in each other. Because we are not powerful, we separate into different silos. There is no reason for each community to have the same group trying to do the same thing. We are all one, and that is powerful. And our voice will reach out from the darkness and create the light that we need to have. Amen.
Well, on behalf of the Martin Luther King Coalition of New Hampshire, thank you very much for sharing a few minutes. Actually, we can talk about this all day, but I'm just really thankful for your presence here, for the work that you all do. Just really quick, I just want to remind folks that we're going to have workshops now. We're going to have one about race and immigration in the library, another one that's going to be talking about healthcare, race, and eliminating racism in the library as well. In room 310, we're going to be talking about race and disability in room 508.